Hello, my lovelies. So when we recorded this episode of the Kongversation, Yooka-Laylee had not yet been added to Mighty Fight Federation. And we actually made some jokes about how we would record this, then one of the games we'd be discussing would be updated, and we'd look like damn fools. Well, they went and did that for Mighty Fight Federation the very next day after we've recorded. Whoopsie doodles. So we'll be doing a full first impressions for the game on the next episode of the Kongversation. I know they're in the game. Don't send me hurtful voicemails. I've cried too much this year as is. And welcome to the Kongversation. I'm Hyle Russell.
And I am Gibbon.
And look, I'm not going to lie, we're in a little bit of a celebratory mood here at DK Vine. And I know we are a nonpartisan outlet. I don't think any of us have ever conveyed any political leanings in our work. But the truth is, there was a big event that just happened, and people are asked to pick sides, and well, we picked the side, and I think we picked the side of the winner. And of course, I'm talking about the Xbox Series X, which was just released this week, and along with the Series S. I don't mean to diminish the Series S, but
I do.
For what I hear, people seem to like it, and
I mean, it's a fine, quaint little machine that's less powerful than the previous generation, and it's going to confuse a lot of shoppers come Christmas time.
But I hear good things about the Series X, and in this war with the PlayStation 5, well, look, I have nothing against the PlayStation, but
can the PS5 float a ping pong ball? No, I didn't think so.
From a DKU perspective, I have really no reason to support the PlayStation 5. So, Xbox Series X is now out. I will not own it for a while because I'm a poor man who is a Donkey Kong journalist, hence my poorness. But I plan on getting one as soon as they're more abundantly available and I don't have to fight the unwashed masses during plague times to try to get my hands on one. And also I have the, $500 or whatever to show out or put on my credit card. So anyway, excited about the Series X. I was like, wait, what's the name? What's that fucking name? I'm glad that the tradition of nonsense Xbox names has really just not only increased, but amplified itself. Like,
God!
What the hell is even? What the hell is the Series X and S? And I know it's just Xbox now, but then we already had an Xbox, and then we had an Xbox One, and in between those two, there's a 360. So
I'll get a Series X eventually when, there's less scramble for them, and when there's something I don't already have a system that plays it sitting around. So
the thing is, there's real no burning desire to own one because everything I would play on it, I can already play just fine on my Xbox One.
See, that's why I don't even have an Xbox One.
Oh, okay. Wait, you don't have an Xbox One? I played.
That is
Sea of
correct.
Thieves with
I don't have an Xbox One. I play on PC, which has better performance than the Xbox One.
Yeah, I'm just not a PC gamer. I can't
that's fair.
Donkey Kong Country Barrel Maze,
I mean, it's my profession. I kind of have to have a nice PC.
I understand. I use my PC for editing, and so it's like it's got too much junk on it for me to game on it. So I would have to have a separate gaming PC, and that would be nice. But I'm already complaining I can't afford an Xbox Series X. So do the math, Mr. Rockefeller. I can't.
Oh my God, Andre brought up Rusty Pup in the chat, and I just want to remind them that Hyle admitted he played that game with a little nub thing instead of an actual mouse. He's not a PC gamer.
No, to be fair, I know my way around a little nub.
I wasn't gonna make the joke, but okay.
I do just well.
Okay.
I do just fine. Thank you. I take that little nub, and I always. Well, I
Rusty's that pup.
Tears. But anyway, the only reason I really need to get an Xbox Series X at the moment before May is there is an exclusive Sea of Thieves ship set if you get one, which I was afraid about, but whatever. I can always.
I'm just gonna cozy up to Shane or somebody.
Yeah, somebody we know who has one. I'll be like, hey, here's my login info. Okay, I will get
Xbox
one, but
Series from the library or something.
Yeah, I didn't get an Xbox One until Project Spark rolled out its Conquer content, so I can wait a little bit with the Series X because, like I said, I can play everything I want to play right now on the One, so I'm set.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, we're going to be discussing today not the next generation of gaming, because as far as I'm aware, all of these games are coming out on the current or last generation now of consoles. I don't know where you classify the Switch, but we're going to be talking about 3 games. We're not going to go in depth on any of them. Those will be episodes to come down the line, but they're all indie games that are all featuring cameos by characters from Playtonic games. So through our own twisted, absurd logic, these 3 games are part of the Donkey Kong universe. So we're gonna be going down the list of all 3. Some of this had been announced months and months back. Some of it is relatively new, but with the newest one, Clive and Wrench, I was like, all right, we got to do an episode about all of these now. Just get it done. So this is Playtonic slowly taking over the indie gaming scene, and that will be the topic at hand tonight. But first, I want to get through a little bit, just a wee little bit of due diligence. And
Of course. Politicians
are basically done begging you for money. You're not going to get all those emails.
Oh, no, they're not. The runoff races are still going.
Okay. But by and large, presidential campaigns are over. Yes, they're over. I don't care what you're saying on cable news. They're over. And, you're not going to be bombarded so much with emails and text messages. So please allow me to do the bombarding. Check out DK Vine at Patreon, dkvine.com/Patreon. Your continued support helps keep this idiotic dream of Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Universe journalism alive every month. But if you like the Kongversation, you can listen to us live. If you back us at $5 a month, you can interact with us in a live stream. Hello, live stream. Hello. We have Ray Day Pinball in there. Ray Day Pinball, by the way, Gibbon, has an Xbox One S. So there, that is a quote unquote lesser version of an Xbox, and they seem quite happy with it. So maybe you shouldn't disparage the Series S.
I'm disparaging the Series S because it's about as powerful as the 1S, and it's supposedly next gen and costs way more.
It's options. It's market options. Look, I'm trying to be the optimist here. I want 2021 to be a new day for the country, for the world, for the way we perceive everything.
Oh god, yeah, hindsight is 2020 is going to take on a whole new meaning now, isn't it?
Yeah. I will leave my hind facing 2020 as I walk towards that bright future.
Good one. I'm gonna steal that.
Andre, yes, was yelling at me about Rusty Pup, which I did play with a little baby nub. But if you support us on dkvine.com/Patreon, I will eventually use those funds towards maybe a better PC gaming setup so I can talk about some of these games and I can enjoy them on Steam and not end up in tears curled up on the floor in a fetal position while my fingers bleed from trying to use the little touchpad. Anyway, if you like the conversation, you can listen to us live. You can hear all of the mistakes I make that I edit out later because I'm like, well, I'm going to come across as an idiot, so that's got to go. That's got to go. That's got to go. So that little bit earlier where I sounded like an idiot, that won't be in the final episode. But those listening to this as we record live will always know. They'll always cherish that memory of me revealing myself to be the backwoods hick that I am at heart. So, yeah, but we're also going to be announcing some changes to the Patreon. We are lowering the threshold on some of the tiers. We are reducing the price of the Inner Circle, among other things. We're lowering the price of DK Minecraft. It's a bargain sale for 2021, but we're also announcing some new things at the higher end tier, like getting your name in every episode of the Kongversation. We're gonna have a credits section. Everybody loves a credits section.
Shit.
Oh shit.
Fuck.
Yeah, I envision it to be like the Lord of the Rings extended editions where they thank the entire Lord of the Rings fan club.
I need to go make sure my real name's not on Patreon. I
mean, look, it's only going to be at the higher end tier, so you don't even have to go in. But I would thank. I know your real name, so I would thank you as Gibbon if you're actually at that tier. It. So yeah. Anyway. Hopefully it'll get to the point where I can list off 4,000 names every episode, and then I can afford that sweet PC gaming setup so I can play Rusty Pup properly. I think that's the end goal to all of this. Ray Day Pinball says, I still need to hook you up with the DK Minecraft. Oh, I'm so sorry. We'll do that. I'll make sure to do that. Anyway, change to the Patreon coming in December, so stay tuned for the full announcements there. But let's talk, Gibbon, about the Playtonic invasion. So, Playtonic's debut game in 2017 was a game called Yooka-Laylee. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it featured a cameo by the character, the indie darling Shovel Knight. And Shovel Knight, despite, besides being a world-renowned indie game, he's also notorious as a cameo slut. As someone who will, I don't want to say prostitute himself, because that's too harsh a word with too many connotations.
And he does have some standards. He wouldn't appear in indie cards.
Okay. He will indiscriminately jump into the bed of any willing partner that strikes his fancy. So he's an ethical slut. And I fully believe you can be an ethical slut. But Shovel Knight was going to appear in Yooka-Laylee. And I remember at the time, 2017, I was fairly nonplussed about it. It didn't really bother me, but I was coming from the perspective of a hardcore Rare fan, right? Like, I was like, Yooka-Laylee is this hotly anticipated Banjo-Kazooie spiritual successor. made by a lot of the same people who made the Banjo games, and I just didn't feel like Playtonic needed to bow down and kiss Shovel Knight's jeweled ring, as like the newbies on the indie scene. I was like, there's enough hype there here. They should just keep their own stuff separate. It just felt weird to me as the rare partisan that I was. But I've come around in a year since. I get it now, and I'm fine with it. I think it's kind of cool. Especially because in the year since, Playtonic has started loaning out their characters left and right to indie games. So the cycle continues. Life marches on. I mean, if you want to get technical, Gibbon, Yooka technically debuted in a game called Tracky Train, which
this is very true.
Yeah, not a lot of people know this, except us, I think, DK Vine and our audience. Because I even made a Tracky Train joke once to like Playtonic, and they did I think they barely remembered what it was.
No.
Tracky Train. Well, I think it was probably just daily, but Tracky
Train. Okay.
Tracky Train was a game made by X-Rare devs in their own indie studio for like the iOS market and mobile. I think I don't know if it was for
iOS
both
and Android.
And Android. Okay,
I've got it on both. It's really fun. You should pick it up.
Both. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, my iPhone is ancient at this point, and just like my PC gaming situation, is not the best for really anything. Even Mario Kart Tour, I play it, and I think the battery drains in 5 minutes. So I've got to be quick. I've got to get that. Got to be. You
should check out BlueStacks.
Is that Heisenberg's meth? What is BlueStacks?
No, it's a virtual Android environment. It's how a lot of people stream mobile games.
Oh. Then I will check that out. That sounds a lot more preferable to me than using my busted-ass device that I slipped on the ice a few years ago and landed on. So the screen is all cracked, too. Oh, I live the life. I live the life. Sitting pretty with my Patreon money. Yeah, so Tracky Train was where Yooka actually debuted in, and for those of you who follow the DKU rules religiously, and you're like, wait, that means Yooka is not a DKU character natively, don't worry, Tracky Train is DKU because it has an appearance by Banjo in it, but it's kind of dubious how they got away with it. I don't think it's official, but
It's a bear that looks like Banjo and is wearing his clothes and is just called Bear.
Considering it is X-Rare devs behind it, we have granted it the leeway that we give the Goldfish in Dr. Puzz's Bowl.
Yeah.
But because intent by X-Rare devs goes a long way with us. So anyway,
there's
Tracky
also
Train,
arguably a character from Parachute Stan in it, making it also part of the Gory Detail little shared universe.
Yeah, and you are actually the only person in the world who would know that.
Yep, literally the only one who cares. I don't think even Seaver cares as much as I do.
As has been established, Chris Seaver does not care one whit about shared universes. So, in fact, I'm amazed he tolerates DK Vine to the extent he does.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised he hasn't told me to fuck off yet.
So anyway, Tracky Train was the first time they loaned out Yooka, before Yooka-Laylee even came out. But then he and Laylee would later appear in the game Brawl Out, which, speaking of our friend Shane Marches, Shane and I did an episode on Brawl Out back a couple years ago, and we actually played it along with Jeff during this year's Not E3 Streamaganza. We streamed a Brawl Out, and Brawl Out, we'll talk a little bit about Brawl Out here because it's very applicable to another game we're going to discuss. But while they physically appeared in Brawl Out, there were also costumes inspired by them in the game Brief Battles from I think that was earlier this year, or maybe
God, no, I think that was last year.
Was that last year? Time is nebulous, especially these days.
Yeah, time has no meaning.
But Brief Battles was not an actual physical appearance. I got into some heated arguments with people at the time because they were like, "You need to cover Brief Battles," and I was like,
I think I was one of those people.
Yeah, and I eventually just was like, I have it from high authority that these are not being considered as actual physical appearances by Yooka-Laylee.
Yeah, they gave conflicting information on Twitter about that.
They did, but ultimately, I've got the word from on high. So, Brief Battles was just kind of an homage, similar to Worms. Worms was another one where Yooka-Laylee appeared in. Oddly enough. It wasn't actually Yooka-Laylee. It was like, I think, a costume or something.
Yeah, they're wearing masks, unlike the other cameo in the game.
Right. Joanna Dark from off of Perfect Dark makes a physical appearance in that game. So that game is part of the Perfect Dark universe.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing with us.
Yep. Yeah, Brief Battles was May of 2019.
Holy fuck, I thought it was May of 2020.
I know, right? Also, I will say, even though it's just like an outfit inspired by Yooka-Laylee, it looks sick seeing Yooka-Laylee in that sort of punk get-up.
Yeah, it's one of the first times we've really seen Yooka-Laylee, the art style of them really being twisted from what we're used to, the in-house Playtonic style. And I was just disappointed because I started this campaign to get Mr. Pants in Brief Battles, because if it
would have made so much sense.
If any character should be in a game called Brief Battles, it's the patron saint of underpants himself, Mr. Pants. But unfortunately, despite Rare being open to Joanna Dark appearing in Worms, I was met with radio silence in my campaign for Mr. Pants in Brief Battles. So it is what it is. You win some, you lose some. You don't cry about election fraud and then refuse to concede. You just don't do it, Gibbon, and I won't do it. I like with Brief Battles, I have conceded that Mr. Pants will not be in Brief Battles. So I am the bigger man here. All right. Well, all that being said, that preamble was just to get us to the point where we're at right now, where we've got 3 current or upcoming games that are about to have upcoming appearances by Playtonic Games characters. So all 3 of these games are going to become part of the Donkey Kong universe, which, small caveat here, the Donkey Kong universe is not necessarily just a physical universe. It also is a multiverse. And if we're going to get technical, basically all of video games are one shared multiverse at this point.
Yeah, you could daisy chain this back so far.
That's why DK Vine's very stringent rules on what is and what is not DKU is so important, because really we can't get so far away from the core tenets, which is it started for us with Donkey Kong Country. With you and DK Girder, of course, you take it back to Donkey Kong Arcade, which has the small problem of, well, that's spun off Mario. And that,
but that's why we have rules like we don't cover Super Mario.
Okay,
see, it's so simple.
It's so simple. Well, DK Vine we are the shared Rare universe that technically began with Donkey Kong Country. Even though they've grandfathered in other characters from before Donkey Kong Country, it started with Donkey Kong Country. So to follow, for DK Vine to consider a game an authentic part of the Donkey Kong universe, it has to feature a cameo or appearance or full-fledged appearance from a character who debuted in a existing DKU game. So you start with Donkey Kong Country and go from there. So that's how Banjo and Conker are native DKU characters. And that's how Yooka-Laylee is a DKU game because, well, there's 2 actual reasons it's DKU. One is more hotly disputed than another. The one that's more universally agreed upon, if not by the lawyers, is the goldfish in Dr. Puzz's bowl. We started a campaign to get an unnamed goldfish in Yooka-Laylee with the implication that it was Royston, Banjo's pet goldfish from off the Banjo-Kazooie series, who went on to cameo in numerous Rare titles throughout the buyout era of Rare. And
he was truly the off-brand Doctor Who of the buyout era.
I don't even know what that means.
Oh, Doctor Who went through that like decade period where it was off the air, and there were, because of the way the licensing and ownerships of the characters works, you had a lot of spin-offs that had like a character that was clearly this Doctor Who character, but they couldn't say it for legal reasons, sort of thing.
Yeah, and didn't they have like there's a series of movies that
so you had like the Stranger or the Minister, or like things of like a series about the Autons that had this organization that we can't say is unit for legal reasons and stuff like that.
The Doctor Who rights are interesting to me because they're not too dissimilar from what we experienced with DK.
Yeah, basically.
Because you've got like characters like K9 are technically not owned by the BBC.
Yeah,
so
K9 is owned by the creator. Even the Daleks aren't owned by the BBC, so they have to keep using them yearly to retain the rights, which is why there's always at least one Dalek episode per series now.
Yeah, but then they did an Australian K9 series, I think, during the Tennant years.
Yeah, the original owner of K9 did a K9 spin-off series that also featured like some classic Doctor Who baddies that he also happened to own. Like I think Omega showed up in one episode.
See, I think that's fantastic. And I'm not quoting the Ninth Doctor. I think it's like terrific that the rights are that convoluted, and they're basically there with the DKU. Especially when you get into characters like Tricky, because nobody fucking knows. God. Nobody fucking knows. So, like, Nintendo used Tricky in Star Fox Assault. You know, he appears as a spirit in Ultimate, but then it's like technically Rare might have a claim to the adult version of Tricky from Diddy Kong Racing.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a thing. And just like Doctor Who, we are debating like how many Donkey Kongs have there been, and is there a missing generation we didn't know about?
It really is. It's no wonder that I have an affinity for Doctor Who, if not an outright fandom of the property. Like I follow Doctor Who. I've watched much of New Who. And yet I'm not even really a fan of it. I just get off on the nonsense, and I'm like, I can relate.
That's completely understandable. Yeah, like it's aside from the Donkey Kong stuff, it's probably the other half that takes up my life. So,
the goldfish in Dr. Puzz's bowl, it's implied to be Royston, and because Ed Bryan, the creator of Royston, designed Dr. Puzz. And Steve Mails in particular is in on the joke. We're like, it is Royston. I think Royston can be viewed as this extra legal character that can transcend ownership rights, because I guarantee you Phil Spencer doesn't care or know that his studio, his company owns this goldfish character, and Playtonic's doing something kind of dubious over here, implying to some hardcore nerds that it might be the same one as been. They're not even doing any outright implying in the games. Yeah. It's perfectly above board, but
even if he was aware, he strikes me as the kind of guy who'd just be down with it.
It's like, what? Yeah, it's like, oh no, all those billions we were going to exploit from Royston the goldfish lost down the toilet. Anyway, so that's why Yooka-Laylee is DKU, notwithstanding the fact that arguably one of the DK rappers from the DK rap does the Yooka-Laylee rap, which then appears not in Yooka-Laylee, but Yooka-Laylee and Impossible Lair. So Yooka-Laylee and Impossible Lair has more claims to be a DKU game than even the original Yooka-Laylee. Anyway, that was Chad's contribution to why Yooka-Laylee might be DKU, and a lot of people hate it. I unabashedly love it, though, and I think
that's the sort of stupid thing we go in for here.
Yes, of course, the DK rappers are characters. They're referenced in game. Have you not played Donkey Kong Country 2 for the Game Boy Advance, people? Anyway, so. these games are DKU, but they are cameo games in the DKU, meaning that these games, from our logic point, cannot make future games DKU. So if a character in, say, Mighty Fight Federation gets their own game, that game will not be DKU because this is a cameo game. A character created by the rare Playtonic lineage brain trust spinning out of Donkey Kong Country loaned out a character for another game. It's the same reason why Waluigi can't make a game DKU despite debuting in Mario Tennis, which was a DKU game. But Mario Tennis was a cameo game because it had the modern rare Donkey Kong in it. So anyway, we're very excited to welcome these 3 games into DKU, but they won't make future games DKU unless they have a character appear in those sequels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. That being said, let's go from the top with the first one that was announced earlier this year, Mighty Fight Federation. And this is a game developed by the Canadian-based Komi Games. I think it's Komi. Komi. You be the judge. It is available now on Steam in an early access build, but anyone can buy it. Anyone can get in on that early access. But they have plans to release it for Xbox One, Switch, and PS4. And I'm assuming maybe that there might be an enhanced versions for the Series Xboxes and the PS5. I don't know. But considering we are now in this next generation of gaming, it's likely.
The future's now, old man.
Yeah. Trust me, after the year we've had, I'm ready and waiting for the future. 2021, bless my nipples. I was like, my nipples are sore right now, and I'm thinking a lot about my nipples, and I'm like, why are my nipples sore? And it could just be residual stress from this year and the very stressful week that we as Americans in the United States have went through and experienced, and I'm just like, my nipples are aching. And it's weird. And I was like, don't bring up your sore nipples, Hyle. Whatever you do while you record this podcast, do not bring up your sore nipples. And what did I just do? I just brought them up. So I'm going to be rubbing them a little bit. So if this comes across on a mic, the sound of me gently caressing my man nips, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that it gets in the way of the audio fidelity you've come to expect from DK Vine's The Kongversation. So yeah,
honestly, if they're paying for this, I hope they know what they're in for.
Mighty Fight Federation from Komi Games? Komi?
I'm going with Komi.
I want to say Kami because Konami is where my brain initially goes to when I see these letters in a video game studio. But I think it's Komi. Mighty Fight Federation is a 3D arena fighter. I think in the vein of something like Virtua Fighter and like that mid to late 90s spell of fighting games.
It's got that sort of PSX, PS2, 8 directional movement in capital letters with exclamation points fighting game to it.
Yeah, so full disclosure, this is not a genre or realm of fighting games that I have ever played.
Wow. How have you missed this?
Well, because I was a Nintendo kid. And
I suppose I
mean, basically I was a Nintendo kid and I would see these games like in the arcade. In the off chance I would be in a mall that still had an arcade in the mid to late 90s, and I would wander in and I would watch other people play it, and I'd be like, that looks cool, I guess. And then I remember like reading about Mortal Kombat 4 because they were trying to like push Mortal Kombat into 3D, which never really worked for them. And yeah, that was it. Then Smash Brothers came out, and like the idea of where the fighting game genre needed to go shifted, and it was just like, actually it was Melee that really pushed things, but it's like, fighting games.
Yeah, and now platform fighters is a genre.
yeah, and it was like, yeah, fighting games don't necessarily have to be 3D just because that, 3D is where everything in the industry is trending. And of course, now in 2020, as much as it makes my nips sore, it is like a time where games can be anything, really. Games don't have to follow any trends. With the indie game explosion and more options for gamers available now than ever, I think, it's just like, it is what it is. And that being said, this is different from Brawlout because Brawlout was more of a Smash-inspired fighter, kind of a 2D mascot fighter, where this is based on that particular style of fighting game that I never really experienced. So let me read you the plot, and this is directly from the Mighty Fight Federation website, because I feel like I can't do the plot of these games justice. So I'm just going to read from their fact sheets. Okay. So this is from Komi Games, the plot of Mighty Fight Federation. In the vast reaches of space, there lies a being of incredible cosmic power, known only as Hyperion. Wielding the ability to bend reality to his will, he has collected the hypest warriors from across the multiverse. His goal? To pit them against each other, the universe's most electrifying pay-per-view event, the Mighty Fight Federation. So,
I'm on board.
Yeah, a couple things. Obviously, like the language in this, makes me think of Thanos, and really, like both.
It makes me think of the Collector. Come on.
Okay, well, okay. So, like, wielding the ability to bend reality to his will makes me think of like the Gauntlet. But I think Hyperion is actually a DC Comics character. So. Definitely.
No, that was Marvel. That was from the Next Wave stuff, right?
Well, I'm pretty sure Hyperion is also a DC Comics character.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, yep, I'm right. Wait, no, there is a Marvel one. You're right. There is a Marvel one. But then there is also a DC one. Okay, cool.
Very much not surprised.
Yeah, it's one of those things where a name like that, of course, is going to be used by both companies.
Pretty much.
So anyway, it's interesting that they incorporate the idea of the multiverse straight from the start. So like, you have extraordinarily large amounts of leeway with the plot then, because characters don't need to be from a single shared narrative Earth. You can just get weird with it. And they have gotten weird with it, Gibbon. So, full disclosure, the fine folks at Komi, even though I don't know how to pronounce their studio, actually reached out and gave me an early access copy on Steam. So, I've played it a little bit. I actually plugged in my Xbox controller, though, because I wasn't going to use my touchpad for this. I was like, nope. Arena Fighter. Nope. We're using an Xbox controller. So I plugged it in, used it with Steam, and I played it for about 45 minutes, and so far I'm actually impressed. So this isn't, like I said, a style fighting game I've played, but everything about the presentation on down actually works with me in a way that honestly, Brawlout never quite did. And while Brawlout mostly had a cast of kind of anthropomorphic animals, which would be right up my alley normally, it was kind of like going all in on this idea of a dystopian narrative, and it was kind of weirdly depressing in a batshit crazy way. But it was just kind of overtly bleak and like serious in a way that I think my battered soul and my tired nipples of the last, let's say, 4 to 5 years, I just wasn't in the mood for. Yeah, approximately wasn't in the mood for. So And I don't mean to besmirch Brawlout, because, Brawlout has its charms, and it's worth checking out.
Fun.
If, it's not Smash Ultimate. I think where Brawlout struggles the most is Smash Ultimate exists. And
that's kind of the killing factor for like Brawlout and Brawlhalla and all those. Like, they're fun. They're perfectly good games. I encourage people to go check them out. But Smash Ultimate also exists.
yeah. It reminds me. So Brawlout reminds me of something like Clay Fighter, where I loved.
Are you sure? Because Brawlout's actually like a competent fighting game.
Okay, no. Let me finish my thought. It's not a 1-to-1 comparison, but I'm just saying, like, my affinity for Brawlout. So I would rent Clay Fighter when I was a kid, and it would be a perfectly serviceable rental title, meaning, this is an amusing diversion for young Hyle in pre-Donkey Kong Country Hyle. I'm playing this in my Super Nintendo, and this will be... It's amusing to see the Banana Man fight for a weekend. This was in Clay Fighter 2, by the way. There was a Clay Fighter 2.
There were like 4 games in the series.
Well, there is Clay Fighter.
And they're a spin-off of Claymates.
There's Clay Fighter, there was C2 Judgment Clay, and then there was Clay Fighter 63 and 1/3 on the N64.
Yes, and then there was a Sculptor's Cut of 63 and 1/3. There's also a Tournament Edition, and there was a canceled DS game, and it's all spun off of Claymates, a interesting little platformer for the Super Nintendo.
And then also in Clay Fighter 63 and 1/3, the characters of Earthworm Jim and Boogerman also cameoed. So, yes. And there was a time where before Donkey Kong Country came along, that I was like, is this it? Is this my calling? Am I going to be a religious advocate of the Clay Fighter shared universe? Dodged a bullet there, Gibbon. I'm glad Donkey Kong Country came along when it did.
Yeah.
But Brawlout,
I don't think anybody even knows who owns it anymore. Yeah.
Brawlout to me is kind of like Clay Fighter, where I'm like, this is amusing, and I think I'm done with it for now. I'm just gonna push it aside. So I don't mean to talk ill of Brawlout, but when we're comparing Yooka-Laylee indie fighting game appearances, we kind of have to bring it up, because this is why I wasn't excited about Mighty Fight Federation when it was first announced. I was like, Yooka-Laylee are in another indie fighting game.
I mean, if they're gonna catch up with Shovel Knight, they gotta.
I mean, yeah, you've gotta take your chances when it's presented your way. But the thing about Mighty Fight Federation in the presentation is that it's not just anthropomorphic animals. It seems to be going with a wider range of archetypes from the 80s and 90s. For example, there's a character called Heckbane, and he's a pig man who looks a lot like Bebop from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh my god, he does, you're right.
That's amazing. He's also kind of mashed up with Hulk Hogan, and Hulk Hogan is just as problematic as Earthworm Jim is these days, but just think of Hulk Hogan, the cultural icon, and not Hulk Hogan, the person spouting racial slurs after the completion of the filming of his sex tape. There's Heckbane, and then there's my favorite character, Billy Strikefist, who he caught my eye because he looks like a shirtless version of Sting from The Police. But
oh fuck.
You're like, oh yeah, that does look like and granted, Sting in The Police was often shirtless, so
I mean, yeah, that's true.
But the thing about Billy Strikefist, Gibbon, this is what really made me fall in love with Mighty Fight Federation today, when I played it for the first time today, was in the multiverse of Mighty Fight Federation, Billy Strikefist, who is a shirtless brawler who looks like Sting. He's the Canadian Prime Minister.
Yes. Yes.
he cleaned up the mean streets of Canada, of the Great White North, and then upon cleaning up the streets, he exclaims, "I need more streets to clean." And he so his mission is to roam the world, roam the multiverse, and just fight to clean up the streets.
Wow.
And that is Billy Strikefist, one of the characters in Mighty
That's
Fight
amazing.
Federation. Yeah. So suffice to say, I'm a bit enamored with this game now. And I'm really looking forward to playing it more, maybe streaming it with DK. Like, we definitely need to incorporate this game at the very least in our next streamaganza, because I think this is going to be a crowd pleaser. And from what I can tell, like, the gameplay is solid, and best of all, because I've never played a game of this ilk, of this this fighting subgenre, I have nothing to compare it to, and I enjoy it. Unlike Brawlout, which had the specter of Smash Ultimate always hanging over it, this game just is, and I like it. And Yooka-Laylee are being added to it, and I can't wait to play as them. I can't wait for them to meet Billy Strikefist, my new favorite character. And I will really look forward.
Earl are also being added to it.
Yes, I was going to get to that. I can't wait till it gets added to Xbox, because honestly, that will be like, it's inconvenient for me to play games on Steam when I don't have to. But Toe Jam and Earl are also the big acquisition, the big get in this game, which is a weirder get to me than Yooka-Laylee, because Yooka-Laylee, they're current indie characters. They are known for this kind of thing at this point. Toe Jam and Earl, I don't want to say they're relics, because as the owner and editor-in-chief of DK Vine, I shouldn't be the first one to talk about relics from the 90s, but
Toe Jam and Earl are interesting in that, like, they started out as, like, a Sega Premier franchise that kind of got dropped like a hot rock and sort of went indie, but in a very, very laid-back way, which is appropriate for the series.
Yeah. They're very early 90s in their design.
That's selling it short, honestly.
Philosophy. Well, yes. But yeah, they work well with the context of Mighty Fight Federation, because like I said, a lot of these archetypes seem to be right out of the 80s and 90s. So having Toe Jam and Earl in there makes honestly a lot more sense from a thematic perspective than Yooka-Laylee. It's just surprising to have those characters paired at all, like Toe Jam and Earl and Yooka-Laylee. Okay, here we are.
I'm here for it.
Toe Jam and Earl were added first, so if you've been playing the game already with the early access edition on Steam, you've experienced Toe Jam and Earl. But that's Mighty Fight Federation, and I take it you have not played it yet, Gibbon.
I have not had a chance to play it. I've watched some of the trailers and gameplay videos. It looks really fun. I'm here for these characters. Why is this wolf not Lobo Destroyo?
Well, Lobo Destroyo has to be released first, so...
Does it? He's already in indie carts.
Okay, but yeah, that's you've already besmirched the name of indie carts today, so...
Indie carts is fun. I'm just saying that, like, they didn't manage to secure Shovel Knight for that one, despite securing, like, literally every other indie darling. So
Shovel Knight is Smash Brothers assist trophy tier at this point, Gibbon. I mean,
he's been playable in like 4 other fighters.
Anyway, so expect more on Mighty Fight Federation in episodes to come, because I will be doing a full-on first impressions of this, especially once Yooka-Laylee are fully in the game. I feel bad about doing a first impressions on an early access build, because it's completely above board. This is not the final game yet. So that's the only thing that would keep me from really talking about it in a full-on dive. But I think it's going to be a funny episode because I was not expecting it to be this funny and to be this just weird and in a delightfully like conceived weirdness. Like, it's not just like weirdness for the sake of weirdness. There is a structure to this weirdness that I find admirable. So yeah, that's Mighty Fight Federation. In the last couple of weeks, we have gotten word on Yooka-Laylee appearing in a game that is now on Switch. Actually, I think it's on. Is it on any other platforms besides Switch? It might be on Steam. I don't know.
Are we talking about Volta?
We are talking about Volta-X.
It is on Nintendo Switch and Steam. Yes,
Steam. Yeah. Okay. Because we're going down a list here, and as we go down the list, we're having less and less confirmed platforms. So, Mighty Fight Federation went all in on being multi-platform. Volta-X is Switch and Steam, and then our third game, I think so far, is just confirmed to be on Switch. But it's also it's complicated. So Volta-X is by Gung Ho Online Entertainment. And it has been out for a while now, but Yooka and Laylee are coming to the game in an update later this month. Date to be determined. I think it'll just drop probably in the dead of night. It might even be out by the time this episode goes live, the way these things sometimes work.
Wouldn't that be a thing?
But Volta-X is a strategy game where you fight big robots. And this is, let me just read the plot. This is again from the Volta-X website. The World Volta Association is the world's preeminent robot combat league, where teams from around the globe compete for the championship. Your ragtag crew of misfits is destined for greatness as they outwit, out-customize, and out-strategize all opponents. As the team joins the upper echelon of robot technology and competition, they learns... That's a typo from the website, but I found it was integral to preserve everything as is. So, they learns there's more to the life of robot pilots than competing against each other. So Volta-X, and it's Volta-X and not Volta 10, right? I didn't miss 9 other Volta games, did I?
As far as I'm aware, yes.
I did miss 9.
Sorry.
Oh, okay,
sorry.
okay.
Was misquoting the Trump lawyers.
You have to be more clear because I only think in literalist terms.
Mm-hmm.
So, they announced Yooka-Laylee are appearing in this with a big press release, and Playtonic tweeted it out, of course. This is what was written from Gung Ho Online Entertainment about Yooka-Laylee's appearance. Yooka-Laylee are gearing up for a fight, and they mean business. Business. Yooka will turn a new page. They should have said pagey. What? Gung Ho? Nope. That's a fail. They worked in the B business, but they didn't say Yooka will turn a new pagey on this tale. Now they wrote tale as Tail. Yooka will turn a new page on this tale, and then they wrote tale, by joining the Volta crew in an original story mission, complete with his own unique abilities. Slurp State allows Yooka to take on any environmental effects in a room and imbue his next attacks with that effect. More details on the collaboration are coming soon. So I don't know a lot about Volta-X, and I have not played Volta-X. I plan to play it when Yooka and Laylee are added to it, and I'll get it for the Switch. But what is immediately striking about this to me is I talked about brief battles with you and how it was like the one time we saw Yooka-Laylee, at least on a conceptual level, that the idea of Yooka-Laylee being presented in this differing art style from what's in-house at Playtonic. Yeah. Mighty Fight Federation, Brawl Out, they both preserve the models of Yooka-Laylee basically as they appear in Yooka-Laylee. This is taking Yooka-Laylee and adapting them into the stylized art direction of Volta-X. So they look quite different here than they ever have before.
They look adorable in those little suits.
Yeah, I think this is like as much as I want to like get into the idea behind Volta-X and the game. I think what's immediately striking to me is, wow, look at Yooka-Laylee, looks so different in this game. I don't even know how you would describe this art style. It's kind of like
it puts me in the mind of like kind of like Super Chicken or something, some of those old cartoons.
Yeah, it's very stylized. It looks like something from the Cartoon Network. Like, sort of reminds me of
if Star Fox were a show on Boomerang.
Okay, maybe that's it. Yeah, but yeah, Yooka-Laylee, they're drawn. It's kind of like this, not hand drawn, but vaguely like hand painted style. But they're wearing suits. And I guess that's a thing in Volta-X. All of the characters in this robot fighting league wear suits to the robot fights. And Yooka is wearing a suit with little red booties and red gloves. And he's got a little belt there, but it's a blue suit. Laylee is wearing a suit as well. And of course, accompanying Laylee's suit, she's got a helmet. A flight helmet or something, which is quite adorable. And yeah, I'm not really sure how they're going to interact with this game. I mean, it's a like, it looks like it's its own little side story where they appear and interact. So that will be exciting.
That's intriguing.
It's kind of like getting Donkey Kong Adventure and Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle. It's just the Yooka-Laylee get their own little spotlight, and then that's it for them. But it's like a nice little sliver of the game is just dedicated to them, which is kind of cool. And this is coming this month, if everything holds out. So I might be playing it and discussing it very, very soon. So looking forward to that. I don't know, like, if this is, like, another multiversal kind of thing. Because with Games 1, Mighty Fight Federation, and Game 3, Playtonic has pitched this as the characters traversing the multiverse. And, in fact, the multiverse is baked into the plot of Mighty Fight Federation. With Volta-X, I don't know if this, like, takes place in the same world as Yooka-Laylee, which, from our perspective is, would include the Rare Archipelago, or if this is them multiverse hopping. Of course, Brawl Out got around it by saying that the entirety of Brawl Out existed within a grand tome itself. Ooh. So Brawl Out completely sold out its entire world in service to Yooka-Laylee. I somehow doubt Volta-X will say, yeah, we're just in a grand tome, then that's it. But
you never know.
But yeah, it's available now on Switch, and it's only $20 US. So
yeah,
definitely worth checking out. All right, and we'll talk more about it when Yooka-Laylee are added to it. But the third game, Gibbon, if you're ready to move on, because honestly, I think this is the game that we have been dying to talk about for ages now, and I don't mean to sell any of the other games discussed on this episode short, but we are DK Vine, and we are people of very specific wants and desires in life, and this is a game that is designed exactly for that. Clive and Wrench Clive and Wrench. It's a game that's been in development by the studio Dinosaur Bites since 2011. So roughly like the same development
It's been a hot
cycle
minute.
as yeah. I mean, it's essentially along with Lobo Destroyo, this 3D platformer that got the jump on the 3D platforming revival, but then it's been stuck in development hell with kind of various hurdles tossed its way, laid out in front of it since then. But it looks like Clive and Wrench is gearing towards release because they've got a publisher, Numbskull Games, and they've got a Switch release targeted for 2021.
Yeah.
So this is very exciting. So again, full disclosure, the person behind Clive and Wrench, the mastermind behind it, is Rob Wass. And Rob is actually a member of the DK Vine forum.
Yeah.
And has been taunting me that the game might be DKU for quite a while now. And I had
sure
my suspicions. So when he was taunting that, when he was laying clues, I had my suspicions. Especially considering that Playtonic's Daly Johnson, who, by the way, has now been promoted from the role of community manager to dev at Playtonic. So congratulations to her.
It hasn't prevented her from dropping truth bombs, like the fact that Vendy's plug is actually a tail.
But yeah, she signed on to voice a Scarecrow in the game, and that was last year. And then I started thinking, I bet when it's all said and done, a character from Playtonic will then appear in Clive and Wrench. And I was thinking Yooka-Laylee because they, so far they have been the characters that appeared in everything. But now we know Nintendo UK, of all outlets, premiered a trailer for it last week. A trailer that is in advance of its 2021 Switch release. And at the end of the trailer, there he was, Trouser the Snake from Yooka-Laylee.
I'm so happy about this.
Yeah, this is great. This is fantastic because Gibbon, I don't know if you remember, I'm sure you do. You've got a fairly good memory. When Chris Sutherland first appeared on the Kongversation back in 2015, before we even knew the game was called Yooka-Laylee,
yeah,
he laid down that Playtonic was building its shared universe of characters. And so Yooka-Laylee was announced, and we had this whole stable of characters, and Playtonic said that the star of their next game was in fact in Yooka-Laylee. And it was just like, oh, here we go. Who's it gonna be? And we had our suspicions, and there were a couple of really good candidates, but then it turned out their next game was Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair. So
I still kind of wonder who it was intended to be, who they were talking about during that interview.
I think they have a lot of ideas for games, and I think the way, like after Yooka-Laylee, they had to make some decisions, and it was like, is there really is there really a market for a Knights of Camelot game? Is there really a market for a Clara the Skelly?
But Hyle, the Knights of Camelot were already in Bubsy 2.
I'm ignoring that. But I think they made the right call. Like, Yooka-Laylee is the marketable brand, really the only marketable brand we have right now. Let's just build a kind of a 2D platformer around them. And that was a good call, because that game, I think, really restored the critical reputation of Playtonic after the mixed reception of Yooka-Laylee. And I love Yooka-Laylee, but I think Impossible Lair really kicked it up to this kind of god tier level where people were like, whoa, this game is fantastic. All right, we're on board with Playtonic now. And going forward, they might have more creative leeway to actually spin off characters like, your
Shell and the Amphibians.
Shell, yeah. Shell is another major candidate for what Playtonic game sans Yooka-Laylee might look like.
I don't know. Looking at her now, I kind of take her as the Dark Queen to the Blamphibians Battletoads.
Yeah, I think that her design looks so much like it's out of Jet Force Gemini.
That's true, though. But we already had our Jet Force successor.
Well, I think it's maybe misdirection, and the Blamphibians would be the true protagonist. But in any event, having Trouser appear in Clive and Wrench without Yooka-Laylee is just
it's so good. It's brilliant. I just love the concept of him being a snake oil salesman to other platformer buddy duos.
Well, that's the thing. It's not just a gratuitous cameo for the sake of it. It actually makes sense from the character himself. And I love the way they framed it in the trailer. And YouTube is down right now, so I can't actually pull it up. But
it's back up.
Oh, is it back up? Oh,
yeah.
Good job, YouTube. I mean, look, I'm not one to talk. Our site went down in 2016 for several days because of our presidential endorsement and then the attacks of Vladimir Putin's forces. But
I wish we were joking about that.
That's not a joke. I think people hear me say that and they're like, "Oh, it's just Hyle doing his Hyle bits."
But no, we got DDoS'd by Russian bots during the 2016 election.
2 hours after the presidential endorsement went up, where I basically said, "Don't vote for this one candidate." It was tongue in cheek, the joke was that DK Vine has the hubris to make a presidential endorsement in a year where like everybody was doing presidential endorsement. We don't normally endorse presidential candidates, but we here at the Village Shopper coupon book say, but it did have some heart behind it. Like it wasn't completely tongue in cheek. And that being said, that was also the weekend the FBI made this warning that Russia would be attacking US based websites with a political nature. So whoopsie doodle.
Mm-hmm. Oh well, I wear it as a badge of honor that happened to us.
Honestly, me too. Like it I remember our friend Josh Walden from Off the Geek Critique was cracking up though over it. Like he wasn't like laughing at us; he was kind of laughing with us at the absurdity that this was how weird 2016 felt. Like that Russian bots would attack a Donkey Kong website over a completely ludicrous article. And now in 2020, it doesn't even seem that funny. I was like, yeah, of course that happened. Why wouldn't it happen?
Basically.
Well, anyway, I was going to say I can't pull up YouTube right now, but I guess I can, but I'm not going to because I'm already deep into my thought here. The end of the Clive and Wrench trailer just there was like no chill about it. There was nothing to really like pad this very blunt announcement. It said, guest cameo, Trouser from Yooka-Laylee.
Yep. I have the video up. That's exactly what it says.
And he's just standing there. He's just like, no context, no anything. It's just like, here's a selling point. This snake character from Yooka-Laylee's in it. And granted, it's a huge selling point for DK Vine and only DK Vine and like the Playtonic diehards maybe, but
this isn't actually the first time he's been used to make connections to other games. Snake Pass, in a tongue-in-cheek Twitter post, when asked if the game was connected to any other DKU games, said that the main character is related to Trouser.
Yeah, unfortunately, that does not count in our very, very stringent rule book as making Snake Pass a DKU game. And a lot of people think Snake Pass should be DKU.
It does in my heart.
In your heart though, if I were to follow my heart, then Saberwolf GBA would be DKU, then Cameo would be DKU, but you know what? We have rules.
You're the only one stopping yourself from doing this.
Pshaw. So anyway, Clive and Wrench, though, has Trouser in it. And from Playtonic's wording, it sounds like their perspective is Trouser is hopping the multiverse with his shady business dealings. So Clive and Wrench might be in its own universe. And I don't know, like, the way these things works, if this was like Playtonic's like, we got to say this is a separate universe, or if it's Rob from Dinosaur Bites saying, no, I want Clive and Wrench to be its own thing, but I'm willing to allow this multiversal connection. Or if it just might be miscommunication and it in fact does take place in what we know as the Donkey Kong universe, or it could be, you know, parceled out as the Shared Rare universe or whatever. But Clive and Wrench is, the game itself is DKU because of this. And this delights me to no end, because I have been looking at this game for several years, and especially the last couple years, it's really caught my eye. And the thing that's jumped out to me, and this is even before, you know, I had a couple interactions with Rob, and I actually backed them on Patreon because I just got really excited about Clive and Wrench. It's, well, I'll say what it is very evocative of after I read the plot, because I've read the plot for the last two games. I need to read the plot for this game. So this is also taken directly from the Clive and Wrench website. And I feel like my dramatic political ad voice might not really fit the tone of this one, but I'm still going to do it just to remain consistent. Clive and Wrench is a 3D platformer centered around Clive, a rabbit, and Wrench, the literal monkey on his back. Their adventure will take you through time and space in a 1950s fridge, all on a quest to undo Clive's cousin, parentheses Nancy's, mistake, and ultimately thwart the tyrannical Dr. Dawkins. So, it's a time travel caper.
Mm-hmm.
And you time travel to different eras. And these eras are all of kind of broad archetypes taken from history, kind of distilling a classical era that you're always excited to learn about in school and like K through 12. Like, oh yeah, we're learning about ancient Egypt today. Yeah, pyramids, mummies. Yeah, King Tut, baby. It's kind of like distilling that, which is, you know, really like a common trope in platformers in general, right? Like, you know, Banjo-Kazooie, they didn't call it ancient Egypt, they called it Gobi's Valley, but it was still based on ancient Egypt. This is kind of being more open about that and saying, nah, you're in fucking Egypt. This is fucking Egypt. Or you're in fucking China right now. But what this really reminds me of, and Rob has copped to this is partially inspired by 12 Tales, Conquer 64, which of course was the successor to Conquer's Quest, but the predecessor to Conquer's Bad Fur Day, which of course was the predecessor to Conquer Live and Reloaded. No, it's too far.
Not far enough.
12 Tales Conquer 64 was what Conquer's Quest kind of became. Essentially, they're the same game, but 12 Tales was the concept that they're hanging the Conquer game around before they just decided to make it Bad Fur Day, where Conquer would be in the 12 tales, and each tale would be this broad archetype, this kind of storybook, fantasy, or historical era, complete with Conquer taking on the costuming of that land. So
yeah, and it was very much sort of a old, in sort of like a Looney Tunes capacity, where if you had like Bugs in a like ancient Roman setting, he'd be wearing like a little helmet or something, you know.
Yeah. So like obviously we saw a little bit of this bleed through in Conker's Pocket Tales. I like not completely, and Conker's Pocket Tales was its own thing that was really based on what Seaver and crew were doing with 12 Tales. But then Conker's Pocket Tales was riffing on that, and then became the only evidence of 12 Tales as that evolved into Bad Fur Day. So, Vultureville was a world in Conker's Pocket Tales, and there was going to be an Old West tale in 12 Tales.
Yeah,
and so
we've seen some footage of it.
Yeah, Conker's decked out in his cowboy gear, but you mentioned Ancient Rome.
Yeah.
And that was the set piece of Conker running from the Cyclops. I think it was like a mashup of Ancient Rome and Greece. And
yeah, there was like a Cerberus and some video footage and him running around a Colosseum and the giant Cyclops and stuff.
Granted, in the perspective of when you're just pulling from that era, Ancient Greece and Ancient Rome get mashed up all the time because they're using the same gods and mythology. So it is what it is. But when I saw footage and screenshots of this game last year, and I saw the Ancient Rome bit, I was like, "This is Conker. This is 12 Tales Conker 64," and it rekindled this feeling in me that I haven't felt in a long time, and that's when I was a kid reading Nintendo Power, and they announced Banjo-Kazooie and Conker's Quest at E3 97, and this is, in the context of Nintendo Power is where I first learned about that, because I eagerly opened up the E3 97 edition of Nintendo Power, looking for news about Donkey Kong for the Nintendo 64. Call it Donkey Kong World, call it Donkey Kong Universe, don't call it Donkey Kong 64, because they're never going to go with such a lazy name, but I knew it was coming. I knew it was going to be announced at E3 97. Of course, Rare was working on it. Donkey Kong Country 3 had just come out. The time was now. The time was then. And what did I see? This game called Banjo-Kazooie. This game called Conker's Quest. How dare Rare not be chained to their desk making Donkey Kong games? I was mad. I hated both of them. That hatred only lasted probably 30 minutes, and then I started to get over it, and I started fantasizing. I was like, both of these games speak to me, because I'm already a fan of the studio. These are games starring anthropomorphic animals. Wouldn't it be interesting if they somehow tied back into the Donkey Kong Country series? And maybe this was a big ask, but the thing that really made me start thinking in these terms was, well, Banjo, he looks a little bit different from the Brothers Bear, but he looks very similar to the Brothers Bear. What if there's some connection there coming off of Donkey Kong Country 3? And of course, me not knowing or realizing that the DKC3 team was different from the DKC
all of that
DKC
was a foreign concept at the time.
Right, so I didn't realize that, the people behind Banjo-Kazooie, while they were the DKC/DKC2 dev team, had no hand in the Brothers Bear, but Rare was Rare at the time, and that's the way the stampers wanted it by design. They didn't want people to grow attached to developers at Rare, which is why a lot of times in the credits, it was just their first initial and then their last name, G-Mails, S-Mails, because then you couldn't say like, I like Rare games, but I'm really a fan of the Mails brothers. I don't know if you've heard of them. They wanted Rare to be the identity, and that served them well until it didn't, when people could spin tales like All the Good Ones at Rare left, because I heard a couple people on the GoldenEye and Perfect Dark team jump ship to form Free Radical, and I don't know who at Rare does what, so I think All the Good Ones at Rare just left. And then when they're bought by Microsoft, definitely All the Good Ones have left. Grabbed by the Ghoulies looks like a piece of shit. And, this is not something that the people who made Banjo-Kazooie would ever make. Stuff like that eventually bit them on the ass, which is why I'm glad that both Rare and Playtonic are like, do put spotlights on the people at their studios now. Like, hey, no, Steve Mails created K. Rool. Kev Bayless created Diddy Kong. stuff like that. It's appreciated and it's needed. And honestly, the people should be getting the credit just as much as the studio itself.
That's my goal, to have a spotlight like that someday.
Yeah, well, you hang in there. I mean, you created DK Girder, and I think that's pretty cool.
That is cool. We've been mentioned in a Nintendo publication. Thanks again.
Anyway, so I had this urge, like, oh man, I wish these two games could be part. I didn't even know it as the Donkey Kong universe at the time, right? Because there wasn't a Donkey Kong universe. There was the Donkey Kong Country and Land series, and Donkey Kong appeared in Mario Kart 64. But then Diddy Kong Racing was announced, along with the delay of Banjo-Kazooie, and all of a sudden, wait, Banjo and Conker are debuting in a Diddy Kong game? Here we go. This is it. So when I was looking at these screenshots of Clive and Wrench, I remembered the way I felt in 97, looking at screenshots of Conker and kind of having this pining feeling that I wish this game could somehow be DKU. And then Daly was announced as a voice actress in the game, and I was like, okay, this might happen now, but I don't like. Who should I be pushing? Should I be like pushing Rob? Should I be pushing Daly? Should I just send an email to Gavin Price? Like, what should I do here? And luckily it all worked out, and Trousers in the game, and that delights me, because I feel like this game, it's not Conker. Like, I keep comparing it to Conker, and that's doing Clive and Wrench a disservice, but I know there's a lot of people out there to this day who, while they might appreciate Bad Fur Day, they were excited about the vision of 12 Tales Conquer 64, and they kind of wish that we had gotten it in some form.
I'd say there's more people than you'd think, considering the amount of people that are still salty that Super Lucky's Tale wasn't a Conquer game for some reason.
But yeah, I mean, I think, like, maybe not this desire for Conker to be like all ages, although I would say Conker is not necessarily just a mature only franchise anymore. They've definitely watered it a bit so he can be kind of more of a teen rated franchise if need be.
Yeah, that's probably accurate to say.
I mean, Project Spark and Young Conker, as much as people recoil and tear when you bring up Young Conker.
As one of the 3 people on the planet who's played that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? If I had more money to afford a HoloLens, I would probably still use it on Xbox Series X. But I would then have money left over to get a good gaming PC.
Let's be honest, you'd get more use out of the Series X.
I know, but I really want to play Young Conker.
Yeah, it's fun.
Unfortunately, a HoloLens is so fucking expensive.
It is. You can. They have a renting option that's only like $100 a month, but then like you don't own it. You have to return it. And it's not rent to own, so any money you've put into renting doesn't like get put towards the price of just keeping it. Yeah. Hopefully the price comes down.
I want to walk around with a monocle and a top hat and twirling a cane and tell people, tell passersby, I own Young Conker.
Man,
I don't want to say I rent hat. Young Conker. I rent Young Conker. No, it's anyway. So yeah, but I think Clive and Wrench, like not necessarily from wouldn't it be great if Conker was all ages appropriate? Just more so the idea behind 12 Tales, like very very distinct, sharp eras that don't necessarily bleed into one another. I mean, we had this narrative device of time travel, but I like you had these very very like separate eras, very much like 12 Tales, and I think that's exciting for me. So and if you ever were like me and you were looking forward to Conker's, well, not Conker's Bad Fur Day, I mean, but 12 Tales, which became Conker's Bad Fur Day. If you're ever looking forward to that version of Conker, then I think Clive and Wrench might be right up your alley. So some of the worlds, though, we've got Pirate Bay, which I love that, of course, we go back to the golden age of piracy in Clive and Wrench.
Of course.
Which, you know, there's like a couple criteria. You have to involve pirates for it to be a proper DKU game. And I think that's really like why Conker's Bad Fur Day has kind of become the odd franchise out.
Oh, God, you're right.
Conker's Pocket Tales incorporated pirates in Mako Islands, but Bad Fur Day never had pirates really in any like capacity.
How odd.
The closest we had were like the Saving Private Ryan D-Day landing parody. That's the closest to seafaring. Really, Conker's Bad Fur Day got near to. So, but yeah, you got to have pirates. And you go back to the golden age of piracy. You go back to Sea of Thieves times in this game, and of course, I'm burying the lead or one half of the leads here. Wordplay there. That Wrench of Clive and Wrench is a monkey.
Mm-hmm.
He is a monkey. And we've got a game like Clive is a bunny, so he reminds me of Rodney from off of Donkey Kong 64. So there's a little bit of hostility I have towards him that's just unfounded. I shouldn't feel it. I shouldn't have it, but it's there because I remember that grinning little asshole who was challenging Lanky to races. But yeah, Wrench is a monkey, and he looks great. Like, it's just a solid design for a monkey. The thing about monkey designs, Gibbon, and I don't know if you'll agree with me, you probably will, though, is monkeys are very simple to get right, but very easy to screw up.
This is true.
If your monkey is purple, you have made a mistake. If your monkey...
calling Dora out.
If your monkey has some sort of blue nose and is not a mandrill, you've screwed up. If your monkey in no way resembles anything that could be related to a human, go back to the drawing board. You've screwed up. So Wrench is just a classic looking monkey, and that's all you need to have a solid monkey design. I'm very pleased with that.
It's good.
We've seen a image of the villains in Clive and Wrench, and it looks like it's this like cabal of like stereotypical like world leaders and baddies. Like they've reminded me of puppets that our friend Grunt would make. Like they're all like dictators wearing like full there's a mad scientist, and then there's like a dictator wearing military garb.
Yeah, it kind of looks like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, so they're all trying to get this time travel technology. I don't know the rules to time travel in Clive and Wrench.
I was thinking more like a Sly Cooper lineup of villains personally, but yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I was thinking of the scene from Batman and Robin where
God.
they're auctioning off Bane, and it's just like Saddam Hussein is there, and like the Ayatollah is there, and you're like, what is this? This is offensive to dictators. How, like, anyway, so anytime anybody complains about The Dark Knight Rises to me and starts going on about Bane, I was like, no, fuck you. Batman and Robin exist, and in a world where that exists, you cannot criticize Tom Hardy's Bane. No, thank you. Yeah, anyway, so I don't know the rules of time travel, if this is like you can change the past Back to the Future style, or if you create branching timelines like Star Trek 2009 or Avengers, or if it's whatever happened Lost style. But you'll be pleased to know, Gibbon, you already know this, and I'm sure most people listening to this who follow me on Twitter know this. The time travel mechanics in this game see Clive and Wrench. They use this refrigerator to time travel, but the actual time tunnel is a swirling mass of purples and greens, which looks so similar to the time travel time tunnel from Banjo-Kazooie Grunty's Revenge.
It's a nice touch. I'm like, considering he's on the forum chatting with us in the thread about it, I can't imagine that's completely coincidental. So
Yeah, I don't want to like put thoughts and words in his mouth and brain, but if it wasn't intentional, it's one of those happy accidents that the Donkey Kong universe was kind of built upon, where like, oh, this accidentally syncs up perfectly with this. This doesn't contradict this. Hey, look at this shared universe we've got. It's all planned out. I mean, so like Donkey Kong continuity is so stellar because of sheer dumb luck. So much so that if the rumors are accurate and Nintendo is developing the next Donkey Kong game internally, it makes me nervous that all this attention on Donkey Kong coming from Nintendo for the first time in years will bulldoze our continuity. Like, we've gotten by with it because nobody was really paying attention to what Rare was doing.
I'm of two minds. Like, they could pull a Jungle Beat and go completely new with it, or they could pull an Odyssey and have a lot of new stuff, but also, like, pay exquisite attention to historical detail as far as the series
honestly,
goes.
I'm not really worried about it because either way we'll make it work.
Yeah.
I am a deft fan wanker. So,
an old hand. Joke intended.
Clive and Wrench. I am really looking forward to this. And you know what? Like, I know this is just a cameo game, but I've got hype for this. The same level of hype I had for the original Yooka-Laylee. The same level of hype I would have for any Rare game. The same level of hype I honestly would have for any Donkey Kong game. That's how much I'm looking forward to Clive and Wrench. So you will be hearing us babble about it quite a bit over the next year or so. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
So, Gibbon,
Hyle.
what are your final thoughts on the Playtonic invasion?
I'm happy for it, and I'm here for it. I like Yooka-Laylee and Trouser and whoever else showing up in other things. Like,
Thanks.
I am all on board with that sort of thing, and I hope they keep doing it, honestly. Trouser showing up in Clive and Wrench just sort of opens the floodgates for any other character on the roster to show up somewhere, which is great. Yeah. Like, just having, like, Capital B or Quack or some of the random NPCs show up elsewhere would be amazing.
Yeah, so here's what I'm thinking, and I am speaking way out of turn, and I can only say so much because I've got NDAs up the asshole. But that's where I store them, because I don't have my filing cabinet is filled with prizes that people have yet to win from the Kongversations, ridiculous giveaways that nobody can figure out. So I have to put my paperwork somewhere, so it's up my bum. I was like, this is great. I wonder what other games they'll turn up in. And then, I was talking about Lobo Destroyo, which is still in development, and they're still making progress. And started around the same time that Clive and Wrench did. And I was like, well, wait a second. Like, I've done work for Lobo Destroyo. What if I make some phone calls? Could I organize something? And could I be the deciding vote on which character it is? And I'm not like, this is just me openly speculating. I probably don't have this power, but I'm just saying, like, Clara is my favorite Yooka-Laylee side character, and I would love to get her into Lobo Destroyo. So
that would be pretty legit.
Now, granted, that would be up to Jamie and everyone at Left-Handed Games, and of course Playtonic. But that is, I'm just openly declaring that now. I hereby declare I get to choose the Playtonic character that will appear in Lobo Destroyo. That's perfectly legal and valid in the year 2020.
I've bothered Gory Detail and Playtonic on Twitter a couple times to update Parachute Stan and put Laylee in as one of the parachutes.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we both have our goals now, so we need to break, and then we'll meet back here in 1 month and see how we did.
Well, I can throw money at it. What are you going to do?
This has been a File 2 production.
Que rico.